How hard is true wilderness survival? The skilled girl hunted by the stream and caught some river shrimp. She cooked the shrimp in a pot and then sliced a mango. This mango and shrimp feast was her most sumptuous meal. This challenge took place in the Sierra Nevada of Colombia. The man is named Frut, a survival enthusiast, and the woman is named Carter, a mountaineering enthusiast. Carter is only 26 years old and mainly came for the thrill and to gain experience. After meeting, they had a brief chat. Frut brought a fire starter and waterproof cloth while Carter brought a machete. They needed to hike 5 kilometers to reach the opposite riverbank to build a shelter. The jungle path was extremely difficult to navigate, with no formal trails, so they had to find their own way down. The ground was teeming with ants, and every step risked a bite. Despite the dense trees, it was very hot to walk. Fortunately, they saw a river, but upon closer inspection, it was a cliff about 5 or 6 meters high. Jumping down would be thrilling, but there was no other option. They had no choice but to jump. Carter thought the spot was great, with plenty of fresh water, but they still needed to boil it before drinking. It would soon get dark in the jungle, so building a shelter was their top priority. Luckily, there were plenty of resources nearby, and they could chop down trees freely. Within a few hours, they had gathered enough materials to build a shelter. It didn't look great, but it could block the wind and rain. After building the shelter, they started a fire to boil water. At night, they used mosquito nets as blankets, which seemed a bit crazy. Can nets really keep mosquitoes away like that? Frut felt awful and started vomiting. By the next day, he was in agony on the ground. Carter suspected dehydration was the cause. Carter found a bamboo tube and decided to use it to boil water. She made a small cut in the middle, filled it with water, and added heated stones. Would this method reach 100 degrees to sterilize the water? Frut didn't care at this point. By nightfall, they were being bitten by mosquitoes and howling in pain. With their intelligence, who else would the mosquitoes bite? By the third day, they were covered in bites. The area was full of ants, which was bound to affect them. They just had to adapt. Today, they planned to split up to find food. Carter followed the river downstream. She looked for plants to repel mosquitoes, while Frut went upstream to see what resources he could find. I couldn't understand why they didn't realize there were plenty of small crabs or fish under the river rocks. Carter found many wild fruits, which seemed to be wild kiwis. Meanwhile, Frut heard animal noises nearby, likely monkey roars. As he pondered what the monkeys were up to, an unexpected event occurred. Frut was bitten by ants and rolled down the hill, his feet swollen from the bites. Carter brought back some wild fruits, intending to use them to reduce inflammation. The juice of these fruits contained powerful antioxidants that could reduce the pain from insect bites. Carter cut one in half and applied it to Frut's feet, hoping it would help. By the 5th day, their feet had turned purple from the fruit juice's oxidation, but Frut felt it was effective. They planned to search for food, but it looked like it was going to rain heavily. Given the conditions, they had no choice but to give up. The rain poured heavily at night, and the river was right next to them. A flash flood could have buried them in mud, but the real danger turned out to be a falling tree. A 70-pound tree fell directly onto their shelter. Fortunately, they were lucky enough to escape unharmed. On the 6th day, they found themselves surrounded by wood as soon as they stepped out. Yesterday was truly a close call. Frut recalled the events of the previous night with fear, but the fallen trees provided them with a natural shelter. Although it wasn't ideal, it was livable. The tree didn't crush them but provided plenty of firewood. Carter insisted on building a shelter nearby, as the current one was very unstable and only allowed them to lie down. Constructing the new shelter wasn't too hard, and it was decent enough for sleeping. Once it was done, they set out to find food. To the west, they spotted a pile of bird feathers, likely from a leopard's meal, so they had to be extra careful. They roamed the jungle aimlessly, which drained a lot of energy. Finding food was crucial, otherwise they'd be in big trouble. Frut, being a man, burned more energy than Carter. He was already exhausted and squatting on the ground when Carter finally found a mango tree. The mangoes weren't ripe, but they were the only food available. Carter collected the fallen mangoes, but as they were picking them up, they noticed movement in the grass. A nearby leopard appeared, scaring them. Frut was so frightened that he didn't dare pick up the mangoes, prioritizing his life. They collected a few mangoes and returned to the shelter. These mangoes were the only food they had found in days. By the 9th day, they had been eating mangoes for several days. Climbing to pick mangoes every day made Frut's back very sore. Carter felt guilty, thinking her demands at night might have caused Frut suffering. By the 11th day, Frut was feeling unwell and struggling daily. If it weren't for the $100,000 prize, he would have quit long ago. Carter decided not to sleep with Frut at night, fearing she might worsen his condition. Frut lay on the ground, struggling with back pain, looking like he was on the brink of collapse. Carter called for medical help. The doctor examined Frut's back and suspected nerve compression, which was very dangerous in such an environment. Considering Frut's safety, the show required him to withdraw from the challenge. Frut had to leave due to his injury. It was tough for him, struggling to sleep every night and ending up with a back injury. After Frut left, Carter had to continue the challenge alone. At night, Frut sat by the fire, alone in the wilderness, which was quite scary, especially with leopards around. He was too frightened to sleep. By the 12th day, Carter went to the stream to find food, hoping to get some protein. The stream had many river shrimp. Although small, they could be filling if there were enough. Carter cooked the shrimp in a pot and added some mango. He thoroughly enjoyed this mango and shrimp feast. By the 14th day, Carter was catching small fish and shrimp in the river daily, building a stone maze to catch more fish. By the 17th day, Carter lay in the shelter, daydreaming and feeling homesick. By the 20th day, the next day was the extraction day. Carter wanted a big meal before leaving, but there was nothing in the stone maze. He had to endure another day of hunger. Despite his efforts to find food daily, he had little success. By the 21st day, the extraction day had arrived. Carter had had enough of this life. He surveyed the terrain near the shelter. Then he took out a map, needing to hike 10 kilometers to the extraction point. Despite the dangerous journey, Carter safely reached the extraction point. He survived 21 days by enduring hunger. Who will take on the challenge next? Stay tuned for the next video update.